widespread, and to mention but a few: Bugula Primary School, our polling station, St. Jude polling station, and many others. F, 100% voter turnout, as in all voters turned up and voted. To understand how Museveni lacks any sense of shame, he claimed that at 408 polling stations, 100% of the registered voters, including the dead, turned up to vote. At many others, their claim was that the voter turnout was between 95 and 99%. It is not only impractical to make such a claim, but it's also unsmart and unwise. We have evidence that some of the registered voters at those polling stations were long dead, and somehow Yabakama claimed that they resurrected and voted. I'll give a quick example. In Buyanja, at a village called Rwaweba, that is in my home in Gomba, we have relatives that live there. We know that some of our relatives actually did not show up to vote because 4 of them had run off because they were being hunted. 1 had been arrested and 2 women were heavily pregnant. They never showed up to vote. They are registered voters in that polling station. However, Mr. Byabakama claims that 100% of the registered voters turned up and voted. We have evidences here. We have death certificates of people that we know that had died long before the election. We have evidence that those of our family members and relatives did not actually vote. We have their affidavits, and those are the affidavits that the Chief Justice, Mr. Winyidolo, rejected to take. G, wrong results and mismatch between Electoral Commission and the actual declaration of result forms. In some cases, the results declared by the Electoral Commission were entirely wrong compared with the corresponding declaration forms. For instance, in Budaka district at Nachiburu Old Court N to Z, declaration forms indicate that I scored 106 votes and General Museveni 110 votes. But the Electoral Commission declared 127 for me and 137 for General Museveni. The same error was recorded in Nyarudea playground, in Kabira, in Katiti, and in Kalasa Secondary School. It was declared also in front of Victoria's Primary School playground A to M, in Tabongo Trading Center, in Ruterugara playground, in Open Gate Trading Center, and Rubira Trading Center. It is therefore not clear where the Electoral Commission got the results they declared. Ladies and gentlemen, a list of the polling stations with irregularities is attached here. We are going to share that on the social media, and we are going to give you copies, hard and soft. So knowing the kind of election fraud he had just committed, General Museveni quickly moved and put me under house arrest with hundreds of soldiers surrounding my home. And you all remember, this office, our head office, was surrounded. Having disabled our U-Vote app by switching off the internet, they knew we were still determined to tally our results, so they immediately embarked on arresting and abducting our coordinators and other comrades, who we had sent to collect the declaration forms from the field. Gordon Agaba, Natumanya Andrew were abducted from Tinda, detained, and thousands of declaration forms were confiscated from them. Oyech Gerard and other comrades who had collected forms from northern Uganda were picked up from their hotel room and taken to a safe house in Kololo, where the forms were taken from them before they were released. Kajimu Umar, who does stationary work for us and had thousands of DR forms to make copies from, was arrested from his workplace on Nasa Road by heavily armed military personnel. Another comrade who was kidnapped in Wandegeya on his way to the Secretariat bringing 600 forms, and all were taken away from him. Other persons were attacked from the distant districts on the orders of the RDCs, and the forms were taken away from them. In total, the forms which were confiscated and never returned by the security agencies are 7,281. There are few forms which the Directorate of Intelligence returned when we wrote to them demanding for the forms. All other forms have up to now not been returned. But in spite of the regime's desperate effort to deprive us of the authentic declaration forms, we were able to have at least 25,034 DR forms out of the total of the 34,684 from polling stations nationwide. The DR forms which were stolen and are still in possession of the police and the military are 7,281. I'll say that again for clarity. 7,281. The DR forms which we were not able to collect from the field were 2,396, and this means that the total number of the DR forms we currently don't have in our possession are 9,677. For these, we relied on the Electoral Commission DR forms, even when we don't trust them. What do these DR forms say? That's a very important question. The DR forms prove that we won the election by 54.19%. I will say that again. The declaration forms that we were able to access in all different ways indicate that we won the election by 54.19%, despite the massive ballot stuffing and other forms of rigging. We therefore want to inform the nation that we won the January 14th presidential election in this year 2020. Power. Thank you, and congratulations. Now, because we were not declared as winners, we decided to petition the Supreme Court, the 2021 presidential election petition. On 1st February 2021, I filed in the Supreme Court of Uganda presidential election petition number 1 of 2021, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert versus Yoweri Museveni Kaguta Tubuhaburwa and 2 others, challenging the purported election of General Museveni as the winner of the 2021 presidential election. My petition was premised on 3 grounds, namely, that there was no compliance with the relevant provisions of the law. The election was invalid on grounds that it was not conducted in accordance with the principles laid down in our Constitution and the Presidential Election Act of 2005 as amended, among other relevant laws, to the extent that, among others, 1, the RDCs as well as police and military officers systematically blocked me without lawful justification from holding any presidential consultation in any part of Uganda, including Wakiso, Gulu, Lira, Adjumani, Yumbe, Arua, and Zombo. And they did this despite officially notifying the Electoral Commission on the 3rd of December 2019 that I intended to conduct consultation, and despite the same being approved on 9th December 2019. 2. In June 2020, the Electoral Commission arbitrarily and illegally decreed campaign guidelines on General Museveni's orders without consulting other stakeholders. These guidelines ultimately hindered a free and fair campaign as they were selectively enforced against my supporters and me to the benefit and advantage of General Museveni. The RDCs, as well as police officers and military officers, among other state actors, systematically blocked me from holding campaign meetings in over 60% of Uganda's districts, and blocking me completely from even stepping foot in at least 30% of the districts. On 13th January 2021, Uganda Communications Commission, ostensibly acting on the orders of the National Security Council, which General Museveni chairs, ordered the service providers to switch off access to the internet and later mobile money services shortly before, during, and after the day of the election, thereby impeding free flow of information among the voters, as well as frustrating efforts to facilitate my polling agents. The Electoral Commission acted without transparency when it announced and declared provisional results of the 2021 presidential elections without declaration forms from the relevant polling stations and tally sheets from the relevant district returning officers, contrary to the law, in a manner that cast doubt in the source and authenticity of the results. The final results later declared by the Electoral Commission were based on tally sheets and DR forms bearing dates reading 18th January 2021, 4 days later than when they ought to have been conclusively prepared. At all material times while reading the provisional results, the National Tally Center was swarmed by Museveni's SFC presidential guards who wore Electoral Commission t-shirts and caps to disguise themselves. And they stood next to Mr. Byabakama, the Electoral Commission chairperson, as he read the results. You all saw that. You even saw him stammering. General Museveni was not qualified to contest for the presidential office. I say that again. General Museveni was not qualified to contest for the presidential seat. Section 4B of the Presidential Election Act of 2005, as amended, disqualifies from the election for president a person holding or acting in an office, the functions of which involve a responsibility for in connection with the conduct of an election. At the time of his nomination, General Museveni was holding the offices of head of state, of head of government, of commander-in-chief, and chairperson of the National Security Council, which offices are required by law to ensure the equal protection of presidential candidates as well as adequate provision of security at the presidential candidates' campaign meetings. As the nation witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, General Museveni instead used these offices to perpetuate unmitigated and unhindered terror against me, my agents, the campaign team members, my supporters, before, during, and after the presidential campaigns and presidential election. See, General Museveni and or his agents / supporters on his orders and / or with his knowledge and approval committed several illegal practices and other electoral offenses. RDCs, the resident district commissioners across Uganda, such as Darius Nandinda of Kabale and Nakamyaari of Rubirizi, as well as police and military officers led by General Museveni's SFC guards, destroyed my campaign posters and replaced them with those of General Museveni. In one video shot between 18th and 19th of November 2020, armed security operatives can be seen chasing and later shooting down a man who was running while carrying my campaign banner. That young man died. Nobody has ever been held accountable for his murder. During the election period, General Museveni and or his agents, with this knowledge and approval, bribed several former supporters of mine or members of my party, including Jasper Ebare, Angalia Godwin, and so on, with money, with jobs, and with other gifts, including cars. And this was to influence them to vote for him instead of voting for me. He also gave 300,000 to each of Uganda's 70,626 village local council committees for distribution in the villages to bribe voters. This was done countrywide. That was massive scale bribery. On more than 80% of the days I conducted campaigns, including on the 13th, the 15th, the 18th, the 19th, and the 25th of November 2020. And on the 1st, and the 6th, and the 10th, the 11th, the 24th, the 27th, and on the 30th of December 2020, military and police officers violently humiliated, maimed, inflicted grievous bodily harm and excruciating pain onto me, my campaign team, and my supporters. On several dates, particularly the 18th and 19th in November 2020, and on the 27th of November, during the campaign period, police and military officers murdered more than 100 people suspected of supporting me. And members of my campaign team, such as Frank Senteza Kalibala, who was deliberately knocked down and killed by a military truck. Shortly before and on voting day, police and military officers in several parts of the country arrested my agents, confiscated their appointment letters, facilitation and logistics, which frustrated my ability to efficiently monitor and supervise the election process. Probably you would have 100% of the DR funds here. This happened, for instance, on the 12th of January 2021, when my agent, Mr. Aman Ainebiona, was brutally arrested, and this was on camera, from Sun City Hotel in Lira, where he had gone to distribute appointment letters for my polling day agents, and he was detained at Lira police station for several days. On 14th January, police in Obongi district beat and arrested my supervisor, Daula Atha, as he protested the electoral malpractices by General Museveni's agents. Unfortunately, on the 5th of February 2021, the Supreme Court blocked me from amending the petition to add the ground that General Museveni was actually not qualified for election as president. And later, on the 15th of February 2021, they refused to receive around 200 affidavits containing critical evidence upon which we would have based to prove our case against General Museveni and his conspirators in the Supreme Court of Uganda. In both the cited instances, the Supreme Court acted as de facto respondent in the petition rather than the arbiter of justice, when it conveniently relied on technicalities to reject our evidence without any prior objection to the evidence by General Museveni and his correspondents, and without first according me as the petitioner an opportunity to be heard. They did that. That was unfair. In one instance, the court's registrar went as far as swearing an affidavit opposing the evidence that we intended to file. In my opinion, the court demonstrated bias against me in several incidents, such as when it blocked me from filing the petition on a Saturday, that was 30th January 2021, but it allowed General Museveni to file his defense on a Saturday, on 6th February 2021. Through its actions on the 5th and on the 15th of February 2021, when Chief Justice Alphonse Owiny-Dolo met and made material requests to General Museveni on the 5th, on the 10th, and on the 16th of February, as if to imply that the petition had already been determined in General Museveni's favor. And later, during the court's proceedings, that was on the 19th of February 2021, Chief Justice Owiny-Dollo scornfully implored me to apply Plan B if I have no confidence in the court of law, among other incidents. Accordingly, when it became evident that the Supreme Court was not handling the petition with the dictates of justice, equity, and impartiality and fairness as required by the Judicial Code required by the Judicial Code of Conduct and by the law, I was left with no option but to withdraw from the Supreme Court. Mr. Byabakama and his 6 commissioners had suffocated the voice of the people of Uganda, and here was the Chief Justice Alfonso Owiny-Dollo also mocking the people of Uganda. All these individuals, ladies and gentlemen, hold their offices in trust of the people of Uganda, because by law they're supposed to be serving the people of Uganda, but they decided to betray that trust and decided to work for the one that appointed them, that is General Museveni. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ugandans, today I am here to announce once again to all of you here and those watching us from afar that we are on our own. We have brought the case back to the courts of the people, and the people of Uganda must now sit and pass judgment in this matter. I will remind you that in 1980, that is 40 years ago, General Museveni took part in an election which he lost miserably. He was not the second, neither was he the third. He claimed that the election had been rigged and took our people to the bush to fight and reclaim the victory. Hundreds of our people died, mothers, fathers, uncles, grandfathers, grandmothers, etc. All these people died in pursuit for a better country, for the rule of law, for real democracy. But what has Museveni done? He has betrayed the blood of our people and done many times worse than the regime that he castigated for rigging elections. Ugandans must now rise to the occasion and resist Museveni and his regime of blood. As we've been saying, our strategy is non-violent and lawful. I will say it again for clarity. Our strategy is non-violent and it is lawful. We shall not hold guns like Museveni did. Ours is going to be peaceful but very, very, very assertive. However, our philosophy also stands firm that people power is stronger than the people in power. Article 3 of our country's constitution empowers the citizens of Uganda to do all in their power to restore the constitutional order once it has been usurped, just like it has been done under the Museveni regime. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our next course of action. That is the next phase of our struggle. I want to call upon all of you, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, to rise up peacefully and unarmed. I say it again. I call upon you to rise up peacefully, unarmed, and demonstrate against a regime that has oppressed us. They've oppressed us, exploited us, and turned into slaves in our own country. This is a time when we must do this for ourselves, for our children, and for our children's children. I want to remind all of you that we have an opportunity to invoke Article 29 of the Constitution of Uganda, which unequivocally guarantees that the citizens of Uganda have the right to demonstrate peacefully and unarmed. I say it again. Article 29 of our Constitution empowers us to demonstrate peacefully and unarmed against any injustice. And that's exactly what we are calling you upon to do. I call upon all the citizens who feel oppressed, the women whose sons are missing, the Ugandans who voted and your results were shortchanged, all the oppressed Ugandans, come out and peacefully demonstrate against that impunity. We invite you to march to your respective district offices and seek answers. Those who cannot march, demonstrate in your own way, as long as it is lawful and non-violent. I make this call to all Ugandans in the diaspora as well. I appreciate those of you that have already risen up in defense of Uganda's democratic rights. I've seen quite a number of fellow Ugandans in the diaspora demonstrating peacefully. We can pick a leaf, ladies and gentlemen, and do the same right here at home. We are protesting, ladies and gentlemen, for clarity. We are protesting with 4 demands. Number 1, as we indicated that we actually won the 2021 presidential election, Museveni declared himself president. We demand that he returns the victory of the people of Uganda. If he says that he indeed won this election, there must be audits. There must be an audit to this election. It must be overseen by an independent body. Election audits have been used in other countries, including Sierra Leone, Haiti, and Afghanistan. In Sierra Leone, you remember it was in 2007. In Haiti, it was in 2010. And in Afghanistan, it was in 2009 and 2014, among others. Secondly, we demand that General Museveni immediately puts an end to the abduction and kidnap of our people who are taken away every day. We demand that the security agencies return our people. We want those that have been abducted returned. Those that are being held in Communicado, those that are being held in torture chambers and dungeons, we want them freed unconditionally. Those that they claim have cases to answer, let them present them in competent courts. Those that are sick, we want them to take them to hospital. And those that they've murdered, we want their bodies so that we can afford them decent burials. We want our people, bring back our people. Number 3, we demand that General Museveni releases all political prisoners with immediate effect. It is not a crime to support somebody. If it was a crime, there shouldn't have been presidential elections. But all of you remember that my entire campaign team was arrested and they are languishing in prison. Those are prisoners of conscience. We demand their immediate release. And finally, we are demanding that General Museveni immediately stops trying civilians in military courts. By law, civilians are not supposed to be tried in military courts. So we demand that those, our people who are not soldiers, are presented either in civilian courts or are released with immediate effect. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for God and our country.
People power. People power.
Simanyi obabena mwagala mbibadire mu Uganda naye munzikirize